One of my favorite webcomics has been traditionally published. You're about to watch me read Under the Oak Tree by Suji Kim. I'm going to be updating you periodically with my thoughts right before I read the book, at the 100-page mark, halfway mark, and at the end. So let's go back to right before I read this book. I'm excited to read this book. This is one of those very rare occasions where I did not buy a book just because it's pretty, but this is absolutely gorgeous. Like, look at this. And it comes with this little thing. But that's actually not why I bought it. I bought it because I actually read the webcomic a really long time ago. And then I was like, I got an email and it was like, hey, Under the Oak Tree has been published. And I'm like, what? Had to go to my bookstore and pick it up. And so yeah, I'm really excited. It already covers all of the chapters that I've read before, but because I read it as a webcomic, I feel like there's going to be some differences between like how the story is described, how the characters are described, because obviously like that was drawn. And so yeah, I'm excited to get kind of a little bit of extra details and stuff, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. So Under the Oak Tree follows our main character, Maxi. What makes her story complicated is that she does not have a very good home life because she stutters, and her dad thinks it's like the worst thing ever. He beats her up because of it, like all of this stuff. It's not a good time. And so he ends up marrying her off to this like random knight, and they spend like one night together to like consummate their marriage and stuff. And then off he goes to fight, I believe it was in like some kind of war or so. And so she's just kind of like chilling in this castle for like 3 years, and she's like not confident in herself, and she doesn't want to talk because anytime she would talk before, like she would stutter and her dad would hurt her and like all of this stuff. And so the story is really interesting because it follows her slowly becoming more confident in herself. And then the husband comes back, and he comes back as like this war hero. He's been like promoted a bunch of times, and there's like this sorceress lady who might want to marry him, but he's already married. And so our main character Maxi, thinking like that she's not really worthy or any of that stuff, is surprised because this man is like absolutely obsessed with her. He would burn the world down for her. And so it just kind of follows along like them and their relationship, and as she kind of slowly learns and grows and learns that like she's not powerless, she can become confident and she can be the best version of herself when she's in a better, safer environment than when she was before. And I think that it's just such a good story. I'm really excited to read it. It really reminds me of one of my favorite shows of all time, My Happy Marriage, which has a very similar theme about a character who just grows and learns and is loved by people who are just like great. Yeah, it's a good time. So yeah, it's upside down. I'm excited. So without further ado, let's crack this book right open. So I'm now a little bit more than 100 pages into Under the Oak Tree, and here are my thoughts so far. It's really fun to read the story as like a written word instead of as a webcomic, and it's fun to kind of just see the different descriptions and get more into Maxi's head and understand what is she thinking and what is she feeling and why is she doing certain things and how does she feel about certain things. And so I think that that's a really good bonus that you get with this style of book. I will say though that in the webcomic, the spicy scenes are like way better. In here, it feels a little novice-y, I guess is a way to put it. Maybe I just read too many spicy books, I don't know. And there's some parts that I'm like kind of grossed out about where it talks about like the spit, and I'm like, ugh, yucky. But like in the webcomic, it's fine. I don't know how else to explain that, but yeah, I would say that there's definitely good elements and then elements that I felt were better in the webcomic, but I'm still definitely enjoying it. And I'm so excited because I know that we're getting close to the part where Ruth actually starts to do stuff instead of just being in the background, and Ruth is my favorite character, so I'm really excited for that. It's gonna be really good and super fun, and yeah, it's just such a great time. I think it's also interesting to get Maxi's perspective because like this guy is like obsessed with her. Like, not in like a creepy way, but he's just like, he like worships her and he loves her, and she's constantly battling with like, she doesn't think she deserves this. She thinks that he's tricking her. She thinks that she is tricking him because she thinks that he thinks that she was this like super important, well-loved noblewoman, but that's completely the opposite. She was never given any like nice dresses. She was never given anything really. She was basically locked away, and anytime that like her dad would see her, like he would beat her up. And so like she's worried that if her husband finds out about that, then he's gonna divorce her. And so she's like trying to play the part of like this noblewoman, but she also doesn't know how to, and so she's just being herself. But like when he gives her like these nice gifts of like this nice fancy dress, and he's like, oh, like I'm sure it's not as nice as what you had at home, but like in reality she's never had anything like that. And so it's just like her constant battle. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to read Under the Oak Tree, and I'll update you around the halfway mark, so I will see you then. So I'm now definitely more than halfway through Under the Oak Tree, and the part that I was just at was one of my all-time favorite parts when I was reading the webcomic, and it still made me giggle when I read it again. For me, it's not the romance that does it in the story. Honestly, I don't care too much about the romance. Perhaps like it will get better later on, but I don't know. I like it better when Riftan is away doing stuff and Maxi's just kind of on her own and exploring and learning, and then like having the interactions with the squires and with Ruth and with the servants and all of these people. That's what I really like about the book, because she's becoming more independent and she's not relying on anybody, and she's learning how to be more confident. But especially the interactions with Ruth, who's my favorite character, those are just the best scenes ever. And the scene that I just finished, which is one of my favorites, is when she's having like some of the food with the knights after they came back from this like goblin campaign, and they're chatting and drinking some wine, and she ends up drinking a lot of wine. And at one point she's like talking, like, because she's like super drunk, and she's kind of talking about like how she feels very intimidated by the knights, and the knights are like kind of joking with her as well, because there's always been this tension because she is the daughter of like this duke guy that nobody likes, and so they think that she's very similar to that, especially because like she was married to Riftan 3 years ago, but she never came to the castle when she was supposed to, because like, one, she didn't know, but two, her dad had basically like not allowed anyone to take her there, in like just a way of controlling her more. And so they have like this just, they don't really like her, I don't really trust her kind of thing. But after this scene, they're like, you know what, she's actually pretty funny, she's pretty cool. And she's like talking about how she's intimidated because they're all so tall. And one of the knights is like, oh yeah, like the reason I'm tall is because I drink so much. And she's like, oh, okay. And so she starts to drink a lot. And then when her husband shows up, he's like, what are you doing? She looks at him, she's like, I was trying to grow taller. I love that. It's so funny. It's so good. I also find that the writing improves exponentially as the story increases, as the story furthers. I would say the first 100-ish pages or so are just like, okay. But then it's like, it really ramps up. The writing gets even better. The story becomes more interesting once you get past that point. And yeah, I think it's really just because I really love following Maxi's story. I don't care too much about like, it's not that I don't care. Like, he's fine. I have nothing against him, but I guess maybe when we learn more about him, but I'm just more interested with her other interactions, if that makes sense. I'm having a really good time with this, and I'm pretty sure that my predictions were correct in that this already covers all the stuff I've already read, but I'm still enjoying it nonetheless. It's a fun time. So I'm going to continue reading Under the Oak Tree, and I will update you when I finish the book with my final thoughts, so I'll see you then. So I just finished reading Under the Oak Tree, and I'm so happy to have been back in this world with these characters, and I'm really excited for the second volume to come out. I'm probably gonna read ahead though with the webcomic now that I'm kind of like caught up to where I was before, and there's like so much content still that I kind of like browsed around and I was like, oh, there's still more to my story. So I'll probably read ahead, but definitely I'll pick up the second book when it comes out, whenever it's released. But this was so fun. I think that this was really well done. Like everything about this is just such a beautiful book. I love the way it looks. I love the details and all of that. It's super good, and it really does get better as you read through it. I think the thing that bugs me about Riftan is that he's too possessive, and I know that like with Maxi's character, she's very intimidated by him, and they don't really get to have those conversations that she has like with the rest of the characters because she's too scared of him finding out who she really is. But for me, like I understand that part, but I just wish that there was more to their relationship, and she had kind of put it a good way that like she does love him, but all they really do is just share the same bed. They don't really have those deep conversations and stuff. So I'm looking forward to their relationship kind of growing more, because he is definitely very like he's very protective of her, but at times it feels like it's a bit just too much. It kind of gives Tamlin vibes at some points. I'm like, not really into that part. But I think all of the other relationships are so fun. I love her relationship with the squires and with the knights and the staff, and of course with Ruth, my favorite character. I think that it's just so good, and it's just such a fun world that they live in, and it's like the world building is good. There's like this glossary like at the end here about like descriptions and the different kind of like the 7 kingdoms and what certain words mean and like all this. So it's so well thought out, and it's kind of cool being part of like a fandom and then it really picking up and getting traditionally published. It makes me feel very like fancy for some reason. So today I'm going to be awarding Under the Oak Tree a total of 4 stars. Like I mentioned, it's a really fun story. It was really fun to reread it and kind of like re-establish where I was last time. So yeah, really great time. It's very magical. It's really just the character development that Maxi goes through is just what I love so much about it. I would say less on the romance part, more on really just the world building and the characters. So yeah, really great time. So the next book that I'm going to be reading is Zodiac Academy. I have heard so many good things about this book, but then I've also heard really bad things. It's again one of those books that's just so divided on the internet that people say it's either the best thing in the universe or the worst thing ever. But it looks pretty cool to me. I've seen quotes from this book. I've heard about this. I heard like it just really sounds like it's up my alley, so I'm very excited to read it and I guess see what all the hype is about. So if you're interested in watching me read Zodiac Academy or any other book that happens to be on my never-ending TBR, definitely hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and turn on the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime a new video comes out. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the like button and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!